Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist for another rip-roaring rendition of Mike the Baptist with three preachers. I'm getting kind of used to this. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a preacher, but I'm getting used to hanging out with preachers because I said early on part of my intent with this series was to show that you guys are real people.
So the reason that you've gotten used to hanging out with preachers is because after doing the show with us, all your other friends have left you?
I'll have to think about how that works because I didn't really have a lot to begin with. So maybe I was just excited somebody was hanging out with me. Right. That could be it. But no, I've really been enjoying these things. I don't know. I hear some comments. I don't know if you guys hear comments, but I hear comments from people about what we've been doing here, and I think for the most part they're positive. So I don't see any need to change a whole lot right now, so we won't. We do have a new feature you can use if you're listening or watching and you want to comment or you have a suggestion, which we may or may not pay attention to, but we'd like to have them anyway just to know what's on your mind. You can send things to comments@mikethebaptist.com. And if you want to direct it to one of these guys, I'll make sure they get it. If you want to direct it to me, I'll make sure I get it. Either way, we'd like to hear from you. So
we could use some help with Inny or Audis.
We could.
That'd be good.
Yes.
You know, some of these guys, I know they have deep thoughts out there, and they could really help us out with that.
Yes. So if you have deep thoughts and you're watching or listening and you want to send in a suggestion for Inny or Audi, we'll take it.
I feel like I've got a good one today for Inny or Audi.
I'm excited then.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm excited. I'm always excited. Those things are really fun. They're really interesting and really surprising, a lot of them, I have found. Welcome back, H.D. Jones.
Good to see you, Michael.
H.D., the senior pastor at our church. Senior because you've got some gray now, too, and I guess, I don't know. Jason Ricciardi is back and back in the seat. Good to have you back and raring to go. You seem like you're really raring to go.
This is my baseline, so...
All right, so it's up from there.
Yeah, it only gets up from here.
It's gonna get good.
Yeah. My parents wanted to put me on Ritalin. You were talking about being on Ritalin.
Yes.
The doctors wanted to put me on Ritalin when I was a kid. So if that makes sense, it probably does.
Well, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
I think Ritalin does something different in kids than it does in adults. It actually kind of works reverse in adults. But it's a good thing. I know people that know me who are proud that I am.
I mean, could that be a segment? I mean, we tried cinnamon rolls. You know, could we try Ritalin
we
around
could,
the table? Just pass it around, see what happens.
I'll bring some Ritalin in one day, and we'll review it.
Mike the Baptist and Three Preachers does not endorse the illicit use of prescription drugs.
Thank you for clearing that up. And Michael Koontz is with us.
Hello, Jackson.
Hey, Koontz, I got to say, I'm going to point you out because you are wearing, I think, the first order of Mike the Baptist T-shirts. You have it on right there.
Yes, sir.
And we see it.
Dude, why did you take it out of the box? That's like
camera.
I am so proud.
When you take it out of the box, it loses 50% of the value.
I know. I'm going to enjoy this one, though.
Okay.
You're going to paint in that one and stuff, I'm assuming.
We're going to wear it with pride.
So if you're listening, you may hear a shameless advertisement for these shirts off of MikeTheBaptist.com. A portion of those sales go to pay the light bills of the studio here, shining the lights that you are now enjoying watching as we do this nonsense. So help yourself, and it helps us. My wife told me if I'm going to keep playing with you guys in the studio, I'm going to have to generate something out of it. So she said that she was at Kroger last week, and she filled up a cart. When she got up at the counter, she said, "This is for Mike the Baptist." And they said, "Okay." Has Mike got cash? And so she informed me that just the name's not going to cut it. So
sad day.
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's all good. But you're looking good, and you're styling the shirt well. And by the way, if you order those and you put them on, send us a picture to that comments at Mike the Baptist, and we might show your picture on here. Keep them clean. I'm just saying. Hey, we like to start these out with a front porch visit, and the front porch concept. People in my church and my group that gets together brought this up and talked about. We've been call this the front porch visit. Well, they brought that up because they listened to the podcast. We had a conversation about how people really should get back to sitting around on the front porch and talking and visiting. I say that to say this. we make no apologies on Mike the Baptist for cutting up and just talking for a few minutes before we get too serious. No apologies. It's good for you. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So, well, I turned the buzzer on. If you don't recall, because I've kind of slacked off of it, we have a buzzer here on Mike the Baptist where if you get too spiritual on us, we're going to buzz you, just like a game show. Okay. So, you guys help me remember that's there. And if you need to call it on yourself, you tell me and I'll push the button. Hey, today, before we get into talking about some stuff we find in the Bible, I thought it would be neat for us to talk about worst jobs that we've ever had. Now, mine's going to be a stretch because I haven't had that many actual jobs, but I have one, and I'm sure you guys have one too. So let's go. Worst jobs you've ever had.
So, Mike, you have done a lot of crazy stuff over the years. Just some of the stories you've shared. I can't imagine what your worst job is. So I'm really curious. Maybe you could start us off. Tell us what the worst job you ever had was.
I'll start us off, and I'm not really sure it was the worst job I've had, but it's just I have a limited bucket of experience to pull from where I've actually worked for somebody. But I remember when I was a pretty young man, in my hometown we had a shirt factory. It was actually a factory that made shirts. And one cool thing about it, do any of y'all remember the polyester shirts that had a design on one side, kind of looked like an airbrush?
I used to rock those. Those were awesome.
Well, we made those there for a period of time at that factory, among other things. But anyway, I don't even know how old I was, pretty young fellow, but I got a job at the shirt factory. And if you've never been in a shirt factory, the way they lay the material out and cut it is this table that's about 50 feet long. It seemed like 100 yards in my memory, but it's probably about 50 feet long. And the material comes in on these huge spools. So these spools go up on this rack at one end of this table on a roller system. And in those days, it wasn't computer operated, so two guys it was called spreading the material, spread that material. One guy on one side, one guy on the other side, and you would take that roll and you would walk down and it would lay this layer of cloth down. When you got to the other end, you would stop, turn around, and go back the other way. So after time, it would be this big, thick layer of material. And then that material would be clamped down, and these saw-type things would go over it with a pattern and cut out, just tons and tons of pieces. Well, what was bad about the job, and one reason I say it was the worst job I ever had, is Jim Preddy, who was the other guy on the other end of the material spreader. That was the job I was given for some time, the material spreader, with Jim Preddy. Jim Preddy was a pretty big guy. I found out later that Jim Preddy was working on sort of a commission scale. The more material he spread, the more he made.
But you weren't?
But I wasn't. I was just hourly labor, and I can just recall times it felt like I was going down just hanging on the bar, on my feet were in the air behind me just because Jim was running me to death, running back and forth and back and forth. But anyway, that's what we did. That was bad, but the main memory I have of that job is not so much bad as it was just typical. I was an artist all my life, and during a break one day, I drew a pencil scene, a mural on the bathroom wall. And the manager of the factory, within no time at all, called me into his office. Did you do that drawing on the bathroom wall? Yeah, sorry about that. I tell you what you're going to do, son. You're going to spend the rest of the afternoon repainting that bathroom wall. And I thanked him and told him, no, I got a better idea. I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon fishing. And I quit. But that was my shirt factory experience job, and it was not fun. To me, it wasn't. Jim Preddy had a blast. Jim Preddy made money off of me. I know he did, but anyway, that's it. This wasn't as thrilling as you probably were looking for, but who's up?
I mean, I don't really have any real terrible jobs. I mean, there's no job I can wholesale say was just awful. Most challenging job I ever had, I mean, it was a difficult work environment, some of the personalities that you worked with was really tough. And
We're right here, Jason.
Yeah.
We're right here.
They're right in front of you there.
So way before you guys,
yeah,
at least a
fictitious
decade
place,
ago. So it's just a challenging work environment, unhealthy work environment overhaul. A lot of unhappy people that brought that unhappiness into the workplace, and they really tried to put it off on you as well. So there's nothing special to say about that. I'm sure that everybody experiences that at every job they've ever had, but that was challenging, and because it bled over into family life. And so it wasn't just something, guys can typically leave things at the door and walk away from it. When they're done for the day, they can just walk away. But that was something that actually bled over into our family life. So it was challenging. Nothing crazy about it. It was just a very challenging time period.
Yeah, you look pretty concerned about it. The expression on your face, with the eyebrows down.
It was tough.
You could tell it was.
It really was tough.
So are these jobs that we got paid for, or just?
No.
'Cause,
Well,
I grew up on the farm, and there's a lot of things that you did that
yeah, that's built
you
in.
didn't get paid for. So I remember one day, old man pulls in the hayfield, and this is back when we had baled hay, and those suckers probably weighed 80 pounds a piece.
When they're green, yes.
And he pulls in the field. Thank God his wife was with him. And he grabbed me and a buddy of mine. He said, "You boys, load my truck, and I'll pay you a little money." We're like, all right. We were probably 14, 15. We're heaving these big bales up and stacking it, and we did a really good job. He got out and looked at it, and he goes, "Yeah, that's a good job, boys." Handed us a $5 bill and said, "Now y'all split this." Oh my gosh, his wife jumped out and called him a bunch of names that we can't use on the show, but told him how cheap he was and told him he was going to give us a $10 bill, so we both at least got $5 out of it. But probably my worst, well, this is not even worst job, just funny, because sometimes it's a bad job because of stress and everything. But so back in the day, my mom owned an employment agency.
Yes.
So
How did the jingle go?
Pick up the phone and call Jane Jones, right? So yeah, that was hard to live down in your high school years. But so Mom's business, she touched a lot of different areas of industry in Nashville, and being a woman-owned business, got opportunities. So one year she got a contract with Opryland USA, the theme park, and so they were having trouble getting day laborers, workers, and she came to me and she's like, "Hey, we cannot fill these orders. I've got to get enough people out there. If we don't, we're going to lose the contract." And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm probably 16, drive over to Opryland. I go in, had to put on a costume, had to have an outfit put on.
At Opryland?
At Opryland. So, it was like,
what was your costume?
Brown pants and a blue checkered shirt and some like goofy looking brown hat. Well, anyway, I was a sweeper. And basically what a sweeper did all day was you had this little broom and you had a little bucket and you walk around and you'd sweep stuff. Well, back in the day, you're talking probably 84, 85, lots of people in Nashville, Tennessee smoked.
Yes.
Lots of people.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I'm sweeping into my little bucket are cigarette butts. Well, nobody told me that it would be a really good idea to step on those bad boys and then sweep them in. So I'm just sweeping them in, doing my thing.
How big was the dumpster fire?
And I go to the waste can over there that's in the park, and I dump all my stuff in there, and I'm moving on down by the Delta Demon. I'm down there, I'm just doing my job and everything, and I look back and the trash can catches on fire. I was like, I think I did that one day. I was like, I'm out on this job. That's terrible. I don't care. That's bad news.
Did you quit?
I quit, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good on your resume, but
You just don't put that one on there.
just don't put that on there.
Yeah, nobody cared.
Okay, Koontz, have a bad job experience?
Yeah, several. So
okay.
we'll stay away from the ministry ones. No, in college, I guess my freshman year, I was a tape runner in a data center. So in Evansville, there was a big company still there, Bristol Myers Squibb, and so they were they had a big data center that was used by scientists and people all over the world. So it was a third shift job, which I am not a third shift kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Nobody is.
There are some, but not me. But so what you'd do is you'd go in at night and you'd be in this big, massive warehouse full of computers, but you'd have thousands and thousands of data tapes that were cataloged along the walls.
It was on tape at that time.
Oh yeah, it was all on tape back then.
Yeah.
So, and you'd have these big screens up at the front of the warehouse, and it would flash up a series of numbers, and each number was a certain data tape, and you'd have to go and run and spool up all these tapes and go queue them up and put them into a certain computer drive and stuff, and do that all night long. And it was horrible. Just hot, tired, just wasn't any good for me.
Just not fun.
Not fun at all.
I got to say that I expected some really wild stories from all three of y'all, and they were pretty tame. That
I
must
helped
be the
load
preacher
chickens
in you.
once.
Pardon?
I helped load chickens
Oh,
once.
we need to hear it just real quick.
I mean,
Is this a Napoleon Dynamite story?
No,
Remember when they
no,
worked that
it's-
day at the chicken plant?
the
plant
place
there?
that I lived, actually, they were one of the larger manufacturers of chicken. You know, you go to the store and buy. So I was helping them load chicken into a trailer one day, and that was tough work. Not because chickens were hard to catch. You know, the occasional chicken would get loose, and you have to. It's like a scene out of Rocky. You know, you're chasing the chicken around,
Right.
getting ready for the fight. But it was, you know, the occasional that. But chickens are dumb. They're just dumb. If one chicken had a deformity, like their cataract in their eye, the other chickens would just go at that other chicken. And so that was the hard aspect of that, is because you're watching animals turn on themselves, and you're like, chickens are vegetarians, except if you have a cataract in their eye or some broken leg or something. They would just turn on each other. It was rough watching that.
Yeah.
And so I helped load chickens for one day, and
Yeah.
that was it.
Well, that's what happened on Napoleon Dynamite one day, and they got paid in change. And
You hadn't heard Mr. Gene chicken fight stories, apparently. So
yeah, we have a mutual friend who I think back in the day around the Middle Tennessee area might have been involved in some
Could have
chicken
been.
fights, and he has some stories to tell along with them.
I'm sure he has some interesting stories to go along with that.
He does. His name's Gene. He looks like Mario off the Mario Brothers
Yep.
game.
Oh, he
Absolutely.
does.
Yeah, but anyway, that's another.
He dressed up like that.
We'll drag him in here someday
Halloween
and
one
let you look at him. And okay, so it was fairly exciting, and we did get a chicken story out of it, so it's a win. Next week, we're gonna take a little different approach to the front porch thing. We're gonna be a little more serious. Next week, we'll talk about things that we hope we got out of our grandparents, attributes that we hope we are keeping alive from our grandparents. I think that'll be interesting. It might not be quite as insane as some of these conversations, but we got a chicken story in this week and all that. So, yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Good times.
All right. I understand you guys are sleepy, so we're not going to beleaguer you at this point. Oh, by the way, we were talking, Jason, you weren't here. Are you aware that I'm wanting to get a word in the dictionary?
Yes.
Oh, so you are aware of that. Well,
yeah.
a word came up. I don't remember what I was talking about, but I used the word shrinkle. And I think I have determined during these past few days that with y'all's assistance and anybody else out there, I think shrinkle is the word I would like to
It's
petition.
a good word. It's
That's
a good
the
word,
potential.
but you need to use it in a sentence and just kind of give us a good example
Okay.
of it as well.
As he shrinkled the aluminum foil into a ball to
As he
throw.
shrinkle.
So I've determined that shrinkle means when you compress something down in a wrinkled fashion, that's called shrinkle. I don't think it's in the
Shrinkle it is.
dictionary.
I was thinking more like when you took your T-shirt out of the dryer, it had shrinkled.
Well, it kind of does.
Okay.
that would
it's-
work too.
It
It's
could
same
be all
thing.
wrinkly and smaller, so that's
Same
shrinkled.
concept.
Yeah.
But shrinkle, I think, is what I have
Can we
determined.
get it on a T-shirt?
I'm positive.
Okay.
So,
Help.
But I don't want my T-shirt shrinkled.
oh,
So I
I think I read one time. I thought about this 20 years ago and got all consumed with it for 6
Shrinkle?
months and then moved on to something else. Not shrinkle, but getting a word in the dictionary. But I think I read where in order to get a word in the dictionary, it has to be used fairly commonly by a certain number of people. So I guess the task here is to springboard from this program and have people start using the word shrinkle.
You need to write it into some devotionals and some sermons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
so you guys are going to look at me like, where do you pull this stuff out of the database? But Shakespeare, he actually has a lot of the words that we use in common language and phrases and different things and two of the ones that he actually came up with, eyeball was not a thing until
What?
Shakespeare. Eyeball, yeah. Eyeball was the thing that he came up with. It was
Shakespeare, this beautiful
eye.
literary writer, comes up with the word eyeball.
and the dress to the nines, that's a Shakespearean phrase as well.
Do you know what that means?
It was dressed to thine eyes. So it was when you were dressed from.
But then it landed in
for-
Arkansas, and somebody said, "Dressed to the nines."
And this is not Shakespeare, but do you know where the phrase "hocus pocus" comes from?
No.
So
It's that movie, isn't it, that Disney put out a few years ago?
Yeah, sequel's
There's a
coming out
Disney
here in
movie,
few
yeah.
weeks. Yes.
but no, hocus pocus actually, as the legend goes, came from a church service that was in Latin. They were doing communion, and the priest said "hoc est corpus," which is "this is the body." And somebody in the back couldn't hear him, and he said, "Well, what did he say?" And the man replied to him, "I don't know. It's just a bunch of hocus pocus." But
Interesting.
literally was "hoc est corpus." That's what the legend is. I don't know if it's true or not.
So Shrinkle has a chance, is what I'm
Shrinkle
hearing.
has a chance. I'm
Saying
thinking.
there's a chance.
If Hocus Pocus made it, Shrinkle can make it.
Yeah. Shrinkle sounds like a good Arkansas word.
It does. Start using that, folks, and we'll see if we can make something happen.
Trademarked by Mike the Baptist.
Yes.
It only takes 10,000 signatures to get something put before Congress. So, I mean, you know,
Can Congress get a word in a dictionary?
I don't think they can get a word in the dictionary per se, but I mean, the bar is really low to get Congress to look at something. So,
I'm
like
not sure
10,000
they could-
signatures.
I
So,
don't think they could get that done, but that's another podcast, so we'll talk about that later. We'll be back in a bit to talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
Do you listen to or watch Mike the Baptist? Do you wear clothes? If so, we've got some great news. T-shirts and hoodies are now available at MikeTheBaptist.com. Just visit MikeTheBaptist.com, click on the merchandise link, and you'll find high-quality tees, hoodies, and even onesies for the babies in a variety of colors, all with the Mike the Baptist logo and familiar sayings from the program. Mike the Baptist is a true labor of love. No one has to pay to listen or watch the program, but Mike and the crew have to eat. So a portion of each sale of a t-shirt or hoodie goes to Mike's local Kroger, Walmart, or electric utility. It's kind of simple like that. In order to keep the program free, we have to generate a bit of income to pay the bills. When you make a purchase, you're not only doing the world a favor by wearing clothes, you're helping keep the messages of Mike the Baptist on the air. Thanks for helping out, and thanks so much for being involved in spreading the good news. What a great planet.
Hey, we're back.
that's quick.
Yeah, we were calling the Merriam-Webster. I tried to find her number, but I couldn't find it, or his. I don't know if that's a man or a woman, but anyway, if you got Merriam-Webster's number, pass it on. Comments at MikeTheBaptist.com. We'll call her up and say, we got a word. We'll turn it over to you guys, talk about some stuff we found in the Bible, if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. You know what? Talking about some of these strange work relationships we've had and how a lot of them were negative. You know, we've been reading through the book of Philippians, and he always wants to bring us to positive things. And again, a cool thought about Paul as he's in prison. Some people say it's house arrest or whatever, but we know this. He's not where he wants to be, and he's been put there by the civil authorities. And so he's always telling people to focus on positive things and to rejoice in the Lord always. And, you know, one of the things that we have to ask ourselves about is what do we find ourselves being negative about? I mean, what do you find yourself kind of being overwhelmed? Something that steals your joy that you're just kind of like always consumed about. You're just negative about.
Hang on a second.
You know, I think expectations of others. Sometimes, or oftentimes, we know how we would do something, how we would perform in a task, doing a job, doing ministry, leading a household, whatever it might be. And then we see somebody else doing it a different way. Doesn't mean it's a bad way. But for me, that's one of the things I'm like, they didn't do it my way. And I really believe my way is the best way. And that's one of my struggles, is trying to just relax and say, you know what, we're all different. And there's a lot of really good ways to do things. And it's just not about, what I think is the best way. We just need to carry on and keep going in the right direction. Let God do these things, not my way.
Why'd you look at me when you said different?
Well, I'm not sure.
That hurts.
I have a guess. Hey, I have a little pet peeve about, and I see this,
Do you feed him?
I do feed him. You don't have a peeve?
What does a peeve look
Yeah,
like?
If you don't feed him, he'll shrinkle.
Yeah.
That's pretty
There
good
you
right
go.
there. No, at restaurants, fast food places, when a lot of times when these kids are trying to serve you and do things, and they do something a little bit off or not right, it stirs me up when adults give those people a hard time. I don't understand that. I've never understood it. It's like the world does not revolve around me at a restaurant. The world actually revolves around those people working there. It's always bothered me. Does that bother you guys? And does that have anything to do with what we're talking about? It seems to me like that's a really negative way to think.
It is, you know. I mean,
And the follow up to that is people at restaurants that if they get something a little wrong, where did this thing come from where people feel like they should give me a free dessert?
all this
I don't
entitlement.
get that.
Entitlement, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't get that.
just to inject a little bit of levity into this
We're trying
conversation.
to talk about negative stuff.
So I worked at a restaurant, and it's a steakhouse, so the lights are low and ambiance and all that. We had these fiesta colored bowls, like very colorful, all that stuff, and we used to sell pasta Alfredo. And when the cook poured the Alfredo sauce all over the noodles, it got on the rim of the bowl. And I'm handing this bowl to the customer that's going to eat the food. And apparently I stuck my thumb right in the Alfredo sauce, which I couldn't see because it's dimly lit and it's a colorful bowl. And so when I went to put it on the table, it
Get your
slid
thumb
out
in
of
it.
my hands, slid across the table and into the woman's purse.
Oh,
She got her meal for free that day.
So it was a to-go order is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Negative thoughts.
She was having a lot of those against me that day.
Yeah. Negative thoughts, though. Again, Paul's talking about, from prison. He's going, hey, this thing that I'm going through, even though he doesn't like it, he says it's for God's glory. And he's talking to this church that's going through difficulties. But I'll say for me, especially like through COVID and everything, I had to quit watching the news. With all the political jargon going back and forth, I just had to quit watching the news because, again, there are a lot of bad things that happen in our world. But I think, part of Michael's, response in doing this podcast is just to let people know, hey, we're just all kind of normal people and things are okay. It's not as good as we want it to be, but things are okay. I just had to get away from the news because every time you turn on the news, it was like, get a vaccination or you're going to flip over and be dead, and the economy's going downhill, and, the president has lied to us and the media's lying to us. I was just like, I just quit watching it. And it became kind of funny. People would come up to me and go, what'd you think about that earthquake where 100,000 people died? And I was like, there was an earthquake?
had no idea.
Yeah, I had no clue. And so I think we do need to be aware of what's going on around us, but again, especially from us as Christians, it's like, what's the worst thing that could happen today? You die, and well, that's actually a good thing. You get to go home and be with Jesus. So I don't know, just trying not to be negative, and I get kind of beat up. Matter of fact, talked about it in the sermon here a while back, and people are like, oh, you're just always trying to look for the good and everything, and I really am, because I don't like the negative stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to look for the good part.
There's nothing wrong with looking for good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you guys are all hitting on a concept that I think is really important. Just talking to people over the years, unmet expectations are deadly.
Yep.
And that's really what it comes down to, is unmet expectations. We get frustrated at other people when they don't when they don't meet our expectations. When we go to the restaurant and that waiter or waitress doesn't meet our expectations, we hammer them. Or if the food doesn't meet our expectations, we hammer them. If we go to work and our workday doesn't meet our expectations, we'll just throw that out on everybody. And the problem isn't even necessarily just that they're unmet expectations, is that they're unspoken and therefore unmet expectations. Sometimes we can save ourselves a lot of anxiety and angst and anger and frustration if we would just communicate better. We would be clear and upfront about what our expectations are with those around us. We would put healthy boundaries around things that cause us angst and anxiety. We'd put healthy boundaries around that. When people start to cross those boundaries, we would not snap at them, not get angry and upset and frustrated, but we would just say, hey man, that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. That's I think a little bit more than what I want to do, a little bit further than I want to go. And I think that would save some of the anger and frustration that we have, is if we would communicate expectations, and then if we would just exercise grace when our expectations are unmet. Because our expectations are not necessarily right or good, but just offer grace and communicate would solve a lot of problems.
So the unmet expectations, I really like how you describe that, and that is some really good wisdom for us, because that communication helps us out a whole lot. Another thing that we have is that we need to learn to be content, and we are a people that we always want more. Seems like we always are wanting more, something that we don't have. When you think about Paul and where he was at when he was writing to us, and the things that Paul had gone through in his life, but yet we see him being exceptionally content. And he's sitting in prison. He's awaiting, he thinks he's going to be put to death. He's lost pretty much everything in life, but yet we can read his writings and just see that amazing contentment that is there. He is content in his position in the Lord. He is content in his service to the Lord. And what an amazing example for me, because I need to learn to be content. I'm just the opposite far too often. I'm always wanting to do the things I can't do for some reason. It's like you get to a certain position and you're thinking, oh, I want to do something else now. It's like, just be content. Just slow down. Be happy where you are and what God's doing through our lives, right now. And with us, where we get to kind of hang out together on a weekly basis and get to see God doing stuff. It's an amazing experience right now, and we should really be content. We should be so happy with what is going on right now, but we always kind of go back to this other stuff. It's like, no, I want something else now.
Kind of seems to me like if you stop, if you're constantly looking at yourself and your situation, where you are, what you're going through, you can find reasons to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the minute you start looking outside yourself at other people, other things, I think that for me, that's where I can find a little contentment in my situation, is realizing, I guess it goes back to the thing I'm talking about a little bit ago. It's not about me. Anyway, I happen to believe that God created us for Him.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remind myself of that, then all of a sudden I'm approaching what I do in a little bit different way, where it's not about me satisfying myself.
Yeah.
And the byproduct of that for me is I can get some rest once in a while. Where used to I couldn't, but now I can get a little rest because I realize I don't have to beat myself up to do this or do that, because that's not what this is all about.
Yeah.
There was something I saw at a conference once that was just really struck me, and the basic idea is that comparison kills contentment. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is really very profound, because we can, if we're just in our daily stuff, if we're just doing the things that God has asked us to do today, if we're just doing that, if we're just being obedient, God pours contentment out onto us. We get discontent when we begin to compare what we have with what other people have. We can become discontent when we compare our situation with another's. We get discontent when we compare our workload with another's, with our looks, with somebody. And you can fill in the blank with anything. Those are just examples that I hear a lot from students. And so, man, one of the best things that we can do for ourselves, I think, when it comes to contentment is just learn to look to God for what is good and right and holy. And if we'll just look to God, we'll stop looking to others to figure out what is going to make us content. Because a lot of times, golly, I've never been more happy to be an anonymous person than when some of the scandals that have come out lately have hit the news. I've never been more happy to be somebody that nobody else knows about or cares about.
Wait a minute. What are you saying here? I mean,
He's glad he's not famous because a lot
I
of
am
famous
glad that I'm
people-
not famous because
Okay.
famous people,
Yep.
they have to put up with stuff.
Oh,
They can't
okay.
go to the grocery store by themselves, you know?
that is true.
You know, more money, more problems. Everybody's like a piranha. They come at you and they're like, well, if you just give me, I'm not even asking for 1% of, let's say you have a multi-billion-dollar business. I'm not even asking for 1%. I'm asking for a fraction of a percent. But if you gave that fraction of a percent to everybody, you'd have nothing in the end. And so you just eventually feel like you're getting eaten to death by a piranha. So, you know, there's, if instead of looking at other people's situations, if we'll just look to God, what you may think is going to make life better for you may not necessarily make life better for you, because everything comes with a flip side to it. Finances come with a flip side. Being famous comes with a flip side, and it's just, that's not going to make you content. If you're not okay without it, you won't be okay with it.
Read Ecclesiastes. Just read it over and over.
Right.
Just keep reading it.
Well, again, here's Paul sitting in prison, and he says, I've learned to be content with a little bit. I've learned to be content with much. And then he makes that statement, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And we take that out of context. You know, we have well-meaning people who want to say, you know, I've got cancer, but I can beat it because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, it might not be God's desire for you to beat your cancer in this lifetime. Obviously, in the next lifetime, you're not going to have cancer. But what Paul's talking about is that idea, and again, he's in prison. I've learned to be content while I'm in prison. I've learned to be content when I have everything I want. And I think it goes back to what you're saying. It's, am I just content being where I am with who I am today because that's where I feel like God wants me to? It's kind of, you know, y'all think I'm sappy, but I'm at that age now where, you know, me and my wife really enjoy just grabbing a cup of coffee and sitting. We sit on the deck. We don't have a front porch.
That's
so
the
you
same
really,
thing.
We
Yeah.
really sit on the
Same
front
thing.
porch and the sun shines on it, and the house is sitting wrong. But we were sitting there this morning and had a cup of coffee, and she said, how are you doing? I said, you know, pretty content, you know, and because there's always things that you could think this could be better, but there's a lot of things that could be worse. And, you know, I think it goes back to being positive. Remember that song that we used to sing, you know, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. And when you do that, then you tend not to be a negative person, and you tend to be a content person because you're like, wow. That's one of the things. I'll brag on Michael a little bit. He's the newest staff person we have, and so he sees our church with different eyes. We look at it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we look at it and we're
Sorry
like,
about that.
why isn't this person doing this? And golly, we messed up on this in the service this week. And he's like, guys, there's a lot of good things going on here. Let's just be happy about that. And that's a good reminder.
So that brings up an interesting question, though. How do you find the balance between contentment and pursuit of excellence, and contentment and not stopping short of what God actually wants to do with you? Because He's given you gifts and skills and things. So how do you? I don't have the answer. I'm like looking at some people that have more wisdom and experience than I do. How do you find that
That's a nice way of
balance?
saying older. Well, we got that.
You know, one thing
I was trying to be nice.
we can always learn. We can always do better. We can always strive for that, and I think we do that as a staff. We do that as a church. We should always push ourselves. Now, I'm very, as HD just said, I am very pleased, excited about where we are today. It's just wonderful what God has allowed us to be a part of. I mean, it's His work. We're a part of it, and it's such a blessing. But we are continually pushing ourselves, just like this this building program that we're going through right now. You know, we're putting in a lot of resources to make certain things, taking it to a whole new level. You know, our production is going to be at a whole new level, you know, here in a couple of months and stuff. So it's like, I think that's good, but don't let it consume you either. You know, just.
Let's take this out of the spiritual realm, though. I mean, not many people do what we do. And so, you know, we look at it through the lens of spiritual eyes, whatever. Let's put it on the ground level for somebody that they're in a home that's okay, but they would really like it to be a little bit bigger. How do they know whether they're being content, or whether they should jump on this real estate possibility? Or how about for a family that's like, we're okay where we are, but if we look at that job opportunity over there, like we look at it through spiritual eyes, if you want to call it that, religious eyes,
Sure.
what the church is going to do, but
That's for looking at
like
that.
ground level for what most people experience. How do you find that balance between being content with what God has given you and your daily existence, and then not selling yourself short of what God wants to do in you and through you and for you and to you?
Like, what's the difference in being content opposed to being lazy?
Yeah,
And
that's one way of looking at it.
you know, I think God designs us with that desire to want more. I don't know if you know this or not, but we like new stuff. Every one of us in here likes new stuff.
Shiny new toys.
We're built that way, and I don't even know if you can make that just a churchy thing. I think people that don't even know who God is, they would like a new car and the new car smell, and they like new clothes. And
They sell
like,
sprays for that.
and they like new stuff, and I think that's something innate in us that's kind of designed in us, that we like things shiny and bright and feeling new. So I don't think there's anything wrong with us striving to make things better for our family or our lives. But again, at the end of the day, don't become consumed with that. If there's a bigger house for you to be had, and you look at your dollars and cents, and you go to the bank and you sit down with some wise counsel, and they're like, hey, it could be a little tougher, but you can do it. Maybe that's an okay thing for you to do. If you go to the bank and they're like, no, you definitely do not need to do this, then don't go to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else until you can do. We can, and that's another thing that you have to look at. We can, in this world, make choices to make things the way we want them to a certain degree, but then what's the cost of that? And so, yeah, that's a struggle I think we all have, whether you're in the church or you're out of the church. But again, I think some of that comes back to contentment. Am I content that today, I've enjoyed the day? You talked about Ecclesiastes, eat, drink, and be merry, for the morrow you die. That's not a prescription for life. It's just a reality of life. Enjoy what you have today, because one day you're not going to be able to chew a T-bone steak.
Everybody I've ever witnessed pass away didn't take any of that with them.
Nope.
Not one single one I can recall took that stuff. This is the Preacher series, but I'm going to quote this guy anyway because it's fitting. Mark Twain said, people work like hell to get to the city, where they work like hell to get back to the country. I've always thought that was a really profound thing, just that thought. And to me, that kind of sums up this pursuit. As I'm getting older, as I'm becoming more of a sage, I realize that I like new stuff too, but I don't want to go to the trouble to go get it. It ain't worth that to me anymore. I'm getting less and less where I like to go to town. I just don't like to go. It's just a hassle, and I love beans and fried potatoes. So in hard times, it's
You'll
my
be
favorite
okay.
meal. I'm
You'll be
okay.
okay.
I mean, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have to wait until you get older to get that way, but I think that's what the Bible is trying to say. Is that, there's a big world and there's lots of stuff in it and all these things that you can consume yourself up with, but it really doesn't.
Well,
It's not going to make you happy.
The pursuit of happiness. And again, coming back to Philippians, that's what Paul talks about. He says, you want to brag about life? Let's brag. I was born into the right family, got into the right job. I have
Went to the right school.
vigor, had the right education, the right vigor. I was zealous as in my job. And he said, I count all those things as loss. In other words, it means nothing in comparison to having a relationship with Christ.
Absolutely.
And I think, wow,
true.
that's wisdom that Paul probably didn't have that early in his ministry, because early in his ministry it was probably like, get on another boat, go to another town, get another disciple, make another notch in my belt, so to speak. And it is through living you come to realize that the simple things of life are really the most important things.
Yeah.
And the most basic things are the most necessary things.
There's an element of this too, this idea of contentment, where there's just some stuff that we cannot accomplish on our own. And I don't know if you guys struggle with the idea of actually asking for help, asking for gifts.
Yeah.
There's a verse in the Bible right around the passage of scripture that we're talking about. And it says, not that I seek the gift, but I seek the profit that is increasing to your count. Basically what Paul is saying is, I don't need what you have to give me, but I would love for you to give it to me. And I don't even want you to give it to me for me. I want you to give it to me for you. That just seems backwards with the way that we typically think of things. So how do you think that we can come to the conclusion where we can be like that? That we can actually ask for help when we need it, and be excited about the fact that other people have the opportunity to be excited about helping. Do you guys struggle with asking for help at all?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's we're all guys in this room, so I think just the way that men are generally geared, we're not going to stop and ask for directions, because that's asking for help.
Hey, listen.
I'm
trying to hawk T-shirts for Mike the Baptist. It just tears me up to do that, but I realize I'm going to have to do that if I keep spending money to do stuff. I mean, money makes the world go round, and you have to have it. It's the same way I can't imagine what you guys go through as preachers, where you have to have money coming into a church building because the lights don't pay for themselves.
That's right.
The carpet don't pay for itself. The parking lots don't pay for itself. I can't imagine what y'all go through. And, a lot of people gripe about, they're always asking for money at the churches, always asking for money. I just wonder if you ever stop to think about how things get paid for at a church. Paul, when he was roaming around on ships and stuff, he had to have some cash. I'm pretty sure. I wasn't there. I'm pretty sure he had to have some cash. I don't think Jesus was dropping magic tricks on him, with wallets and stuff. I think he had to have some cash.
Mm-hmm.
Had to rely on those people. So he had to ask, but it's a different kind of asking in these situations, I guess. And at some point, Charles Stanley, I heard him say years ago, it was on this topic of, he wasn't really talking about asking for things, he was talking about receiving compliments, but I think it's the same concept. He said it used to wear him out because he didn't want people saying things to him about how good this was, that was, but he said he learned to say thank you. And he, if I remember the way he told it right, once he learned to do that, it freed him up to not mess with that anymore. He accepted it for what it was and went on. So he said after that, yeah, come to me and tell me I'm doing a great job. I'm going to say thank you, and then I'm going on about my business. Same thing with asking for help. In all these ministry situations, you have to do it. I mean, how would those guys in Paul's day have done any of that without that? I mean,
I find it easier to ask for help on behalf of the ministry. To ask for help for something we're doing at the church, to help a missions organization or something. I don't have a problem asking for help for that, but I struggle with asking for help when it comes to me.
Personal.
Yeah. And I had a deacon once berate me over that, because he wanted me to beg for money, and I'm like, I ain't going to do it. I just can't do that, but I'll ask for something else, and I'll be happy to do that.
There's two stories kind of along the same line that I'd like to share. One of them was when I was in college, and this is before I got married. This is before had kids, any of that stuff. Obviously, if you're doing it right, the kids come after marriage anyway. But before I got married and had kids, and I was still in college, and one of my friends was going on to the mission field, and just by virtue of where I was at the time, she didn't even ask me for money, but I didn't have a whole lot, but I was able to give her some, and it's what Paul's talking about. It is a blessing to give, man. It is so cool when you're able to do that. And she went off into the mission field. It's not where I was. I was fixing to get married. And so that's not where God was sending me, but I got to be a part of her going and doing something really cool. And there's the aspect of giving. And so that actually helped me just recently with Temple. And I have a friend that has asked me multiple times to go and I'm going to go to a foreign country for a short time period, and I'm going to help train pastors there. And he has asked me for several years to go on this trip, and I've wanted to. I've longed to do it. It's like right in my wheelhouse, but the finances haven't been there. And I finally said to him, we're just going to do it. I'm going to make it happen somehow. And then, if you've been listening to this podcast, this is when, right around the time that I say yes, is when house gets struck with lightning,
Yep.
cars break down, motorcycle breaks down, major renovations, water leak issues going on in the bathroom. This is when all of this, I had said yes, and then all of this stuff happens. And so then it came to the point where I'm like, I have to tell this guy completely yes or completely no. And it was humbling and hard to ask for a gift, but it kind of helped me to remember that it was a joy to give in much as it was to be able to receive. And so I think that's kind of what Paul's talking about here. We forget, I don't know if you guys get to this, but we forget that it's not necessary. I mean, it's a burden in some ways when you ask other people for help, but it's really actually, they get excited about that. They want to help. They want to give. We've got another person at our church that's going on the mission field, and people are giving to make that happen, and it's not a burden to them. If it was a burden to them, they wouldn't give it, but he's already like 80% full for the money that he needs to go on the mission field because people want to give to that.
Yeah. One of my missionary buddies several years ago when we were out serving, it would become almost a running joke, but it was serious. When it come time to pay for something, you'd be like, I'm paying, and don't you steal my blessing. Let me pay for this because it is a blessing to be able to do this for somebody else.
The key, again, rejoicing, and the way you rejoice is that you learn to be content, but you also learn to give to other people to help them. It's just a reminder we're all connected. We're all connected in the things that God wants us to do together, and it's not about a superstar here and a superstar there. It really takes all of us. And if you think about your human body, the lungs produce oxygen. The rest of the body is pretty excited about that when they get that oxygen, and it gets rid of the carbon dioxide, and the body's pretty excited when it gets rid of those things. And so, it's just a good reminder that this whole thing is about all of us together. It's not about one individual, and we have to do it together. And sometimes that can be humbling, and sometimes it's difficult, and all that. But at the end of it, you've been blessed. The other person's been blessed. The whole group has been blessed, and then there's joy in that.
Is there anywhere you guys struggle with giving when you or not giving when you should? Anywhere you guys struggle with that?
Struggle with not giving when you should, or struggle with giving when you should?
Not giving when you should. Like, that God has said, give, and you struggle to actually give. Is there any area where you guys?
I have a very simple way of thinking about that. If I have it, I'll give it. I mean, if I have it, I'll give it because there's times in my life I live a strange life. I'm aware of that. I make a fortune sometimes in a year, and then I spend the next year losing it. So it's kind of a vicious cycle with me. But I've learned, in looking back over the years, the times that I was most content, most happy, most satisfied, and had the best time was the times when it seemed like God was pouring stuff out on me I didn't know what to do with. There was so much. But I learned that what you do with that is you just spend it on somebody else, on something of his cause, or not so much give it away, but I learned to spend it appropriately on things that are for the good of that. And there's not really an end to that. The times when it ended for me is when I got back in the driver's seat of it and started steering it, for other things. So that's why I go through a vicious cycle, But he will yank the rug right out from under me, and I've come to realize that there's a way you do that. So I think some people feel real guilty if they're really struggling, like financially. Just put this incredible guilt trip on their shoulders about not being able to give more than they can. But I'm not sure God wants you to give more than you can. Something about that to me doesn't really make sense. think he wants to. I think he wants you to give according to what he gives you.
Mm-hmm.
And once that thing kicks in, it's like a self-propelled bicycle. It just kind of.
And the giving isn't limited to finances.
Right. No, I was going to say,
absolutely not.
You said, with what God gives you, you give others. If God has blessed you financially, then that's an opportunity to give financially. If God has given you a blessing of strength, then share that with others. If He's given you the blessing of time, then share that with others. If He's given you the blessing of, being able to put on a podcast, give that to others.
Well, I bring up finances because I know people.
That's where we typically go.
Well, a lot of people that's where the big guilt trip, I think, comes from, that people will put on themselves unnecessarily and work themselves into this frenzy about,
Mm-hmm.
And, you can get yourself in trouble if you're not smart there, too. You can get yourself into trouble. That may go against the grain of some folks who think just give it all away, but I'm not sure I read in the Bible anywhere where it said give it all away and live under a rock. I don't remember reading that. Maybe that's a Inny or Outty question coming up, but anyway.
You wouldn't be a good monk.
I wouldn't know. Well, for one, I don't like that chanting stuff. That would just get on my nerves.
Sitting on a cold floor.
Yeah.
I'd struggle with. We just went to an evangelism conference, which is basically about sharing the gospel with people. Well, I walk out of most of those conferences going, I stink as a pastor, I stink as a Christian, because these guys are talking about sitting down on an airplane and talking to somebody about how good God is, or their Uber driver. Me and Michael had just gotten off a trip together, and I was like, yeah. You rode for about 45 minutes with that Uber driver, and you didn't say a word to him. And but I was laughing. I was like, neither did I. And then I got on the airplane, and I didn't want to talk to the person sitting beside. I was like, put on my headphones and stop talking. I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk to me. So I struggle with that, But again, giving. If you ever watch Michael Jr., he's a great comedian. He talks about not giving out of compulsion. Don't give out of compulsion just because somebody else gave. Mm. Give because you knew you were supposed to give. Mm-hmm. And when you give when you were supposed to give, then you don't have to feel guilty about not giving. He uses this great illustration about he's in line at Starbucks one day, and he gets up to the window, and the lady goes, hey, you don't know this, but 13 people in front of you have paid it forward, and you're the 14th person. Do you want to pay it forward? He goes, I don't know. Hold on a minute. He gets his coffee. He looks up and he goes, God, do you want me to pay it forward? Blink my lights if you want me to. Nope, I do not. I do not want to pay it forward. Thank you for my free coffee. And he drove off. And he said, but he said, I didn't want to give just because she made me feel guilty. I needed to give because I felt like I was supposed to give. And I think sometimes we get caught up in that.
I think so, but I think people make it hard on themselves.
Yeah,
sometimes.
they do.
I've been on the other side of that. I worked at Starbucks, so it was always funny. That usually happens around Thanksgiving, Christmas time. People just are generally more generous. But it was always funny. You could tell the people, and they'd be like, hey, the person in front of you has paid it forward. They paid for yours. Did you want to do that? And some of them would be like, well, how much is that person?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, nope. And they'd drive off. Or they'd be like, no, I don't want to pay for that. It's a blessing on me. I mean, so it was funny, the attitude with which sometimes people would receive the gift. That's also important.
What brought up all this giving thing?
Scripture.
Well, I mean, we're in the conversation because we started out with negative thinking.
Well, see, now we're not negative about giving. We're rejoicing in all things, Michael.
We're happy.
Contentment was kind of the big idea.
We're rejoicing in all things.
Contentment and giving.
That's a good way to wrap up this segment, though.
How?
Rejoicing in all things, even like giving and receiving and contentment.
Well, I'll just tell you what. Let me preach. I'm not a preacher.
All right, come on.
Okay,
let me just preach a minute. You can be content. You don't have to wonder about that. You don't have to struggle with it. You can be content. I've often thought a Christian, once you're saved, you could go off down here in the woods, sit on the hillside naked the rest of your life and just sit on the hillside being happy that you're saved. You can be content. Wouldn't have to do another thing, I don't think. But you can be content knowing that you're saved. You're not going to burn in hell. That's a little harsh, but there's a lot of freedom in that, I think. And being a little more of a sage than I used to be, the stuff doesn't really matter. In fact, I'm trying to sell stuff around here. Just get it out of my way. I'm tired of it being in the way. I'm tired of looking at it. I don't use it. So I've been having a clearance sale.
I saw a bicycle with a special seat on it. What's that going for?
That's another story.
I gotcha.
That's a long story, but we'll talk about it someday. But anyway.
Can I Venmo you part of the Airstream?
Yeah, just Venmo a little at a time.
Just a little bit at a time.
My point is, what I want to preach about is you don't have to worry about this contentment thing. You can be content, but you have to be content. You have to mentally make up your mind that your salvation is enough to make you happy. No matter what happens over there, no matter what happens in there, no matter what happens down the road, no matter what happened last week, if you satisfy in your mind, and you can do this, I've done it, that's all you really need to be happy, you can be content. The rest of this is just, it's either fun or fluff. That's all the rest of this is. Me, I go for the fun. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to cut up. I'm going to chuckle. I'm going to look for friends of mine who like to do that, and we're going to have a big old time. Because I'm content in my salvation, and that makes me able to be content with the rest of it. I love lobster. I love pinto beans. I'm good.
Yep.
So, there. Sermon over. Pass the plate.
We enjoyed that.
But I think that's true.
I think you're right.
So I think a lot of people are struggling to find a way to be content, which leads you to buy the stuff, buy more stuff, look for new stuff. And then you just get in this vicious,
You're never content until you're doing what you're created to do, and you're created to have a relationship with God.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah. And it seems to me like
Period.
If you do that part,
The rest will work itself out.
the rest works itself out, and you can sit back. It's like I've told my kids. Maybe I just dreamed I always told them this, but I always imagined that I told my kids, life's not always fun, but it's always interesting. It's like this amazing story. If you just look out around you, all these things happen. It's just this amazing story, some good, some bad, but it's interesting. But you have to look at it that way, because it'll consume you if you don't.
Yep.
Whew. I need some coffee.
That's good, man. Good stuff.
Did we get where y'all wanted to go?
Absolutely.
In
Yeah.
the,
I'm good.
Bible Stuff Talk?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Inny or Outty's coming right up, and I'm looking forward to it. I really look forward to it now.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
What a great day to be content, because today on Inny or Outty, well, we're doing the same thing we always do, but it's going to be fun because these are so
We're
exciting.
rejoicing in
We're
Inny and-
rejoicing in it. We sure are. Today, I guess today's episode, I'll do one, and Jason.
I think I got a good one. Yeah.
I think next week the other two Yahoos here will be in charge. But today, Jason and I are going to try to stump the panels, or something like that. But Jason, you're up. Go. You.
Telekinetic powers in the Bible or not?
Oh, wait a minute.
Telekinetic power.
ESP, is that the same as ESP?
No, ESP is where you perceive things outside of yourself.
Extrasensory.
Telekinetic powers is where you can move things with your mind.
So you're
Oh.
talking about, a concept, not an actual phrase.
Well, now, let me just say,
Yes, concept, not phrase.
is this where the old conversation about move a mountain?
That's what I came.
That's
to my
what I'm
mind.
thinking.
If
He's
you say to
going
move,
after-
if you say this mountain move, if you have the faith of a mustard seed.
Yes. So your general Inny or Outty question is, are telekinetics in the Bible?
Sure.
So is that telekinetics, that phrase, move a mountain?
Or how about, get thee behind me, Satan? Where does he have to go?
Behind you.
Then you've moved him. Moses told the water, get on out the way. I'm sure that's exactly the
Telekinetics.
way that went. Get on out the
Get
way.
on out the way there. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Tennessee vernacular.
Yeah, exactly. And the water split.
Yeah, I mean, that concept is in there.
The concept is
mind
in there.
over
Yeah.
matter. Is that what you're
know.
asking? Is mind over matter? That mind can actually move matter, and
If you don't mind, it don't matter.
that's right.
Well, I'm going to say, though, I want us to be careful here,
Yes.
fellas. As I say often, I've not been to school for this, but my hillbilly common sense is picking something up on the radar here. Is it our mind or a man's mind that made that happen, or is it something God did? Which would not be telekinetics by any means. So I just wanted to point that out and then restructure the conversation a little bit around the idea that Jason might be slipping up on us because he hasn't really done it yet, but I keep thinking he's going to. There's just something about him that looks mischievous, and I keep thinking, he's trying to trick
we
us.
have to humble ourselves and realize we can't move a mountain in ourselves.
Right?
It has to be the power of God.
Yes.
Yet the power of God resides in us. I mean,
Boy, we're dancing around all kinds of lines here now.
Peter told a lame man to get up and walk, and he got up and he walked.
My point would still be, I'm going to argue my point.
Okay.
My point would still be that Peter didn't really do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's God working through him.
Yes.
But he is saying, does your mind have the ability?
So
This is
give us
tricky.
your definition of telekinesis now. Yeah.
What's your? No, you got to tell me what your vote is.
Well, actually, I'm with Koontz. I'd like to know what you're thinking telekinesis
I
is.
can't. Oh, okay. Telekinesis is when you think something and then the object moves.
Okay. That's faith.
Because you did it, or because
It's just
You
faith.
thought it and it moved.
you thought it and it moved?
Well, Elijah said, it ain't going to rain till I say it going to rain.
It's faith.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable if he were asking, is faith in the Bible? Well, let me just explain. In all
I think we got that
fairness,
one.
in all fairness, I would not want to be on the panel that misled somebody listening to us talk right now to believe that they can move something with their mind. I do not want
Yeah,
to.
we're not talking about witchcraft.
Exactly. I do not want to be
No, we're not
involved.
talking about
Not
magic.
Professor X,
Yeah.
no mutant powers.
That's a good one, Professor X. Magneto.
Yes.
Now, if we're saying that through my faith,
So there's a thought
there's a thought
in your brain
that God will cause something to
that
happen.
came out of heaven, and you said, don't rain, and it didn't rain.
Boy, this is all kinds of tricky.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks for messing. I need some coffee. Let's just vote. I mean, we got a 50-50 chance, and the way Jason's looking at us, it's a lose-lose anyway.
I'm going to go
He's
with
got an
y'all.
opposite answer
Yeah.
no matter what.
I'm going to go with y'all loosely that telekinesis is in there, but it's based entirely on faith and not anything a human's capable of
Gotcha.
doing.
Okay.
I will.
Inny.
Any.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we're going with.
I mean, I just thought it was really funny where you guys took this because it's exactly 2 seconds into it. You guys are like, well, I'm thinking of in Matthew where he's like, you have faith of a mustard seed. You could say to the mountain. That's exactly the verse I had in my mind.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I just thought it was interesting how you guys went way deeper than I was just like, oh, that's funny. Maybe we could make that work. And then you guys went like really theological. That was interesting.
It would be a really poor recording if we didn't go a little off kilter.
It would. Yeah.
That was awesome the way you guys took that.
Our
needs to
3
go out
listeners come back every week just because
That's
we
a good
go
one,
off the
Jason.
rails.
Thank you
Yes,
for that.
that's good.
Yeah.
That was really good, but there again, I just want to be cautious with that.
Yeah, the
Some
word
of those
specifically
topics-
is faith.
Some of those topics can cause divisions. I'll
Not
just say it that
telekinetic
way.
powers in the way that paranormal people believe
Kreskin,
in. Yeah,
the way Kreskin did it.
yeah. It is more
Kreskin,
like
by the way, is an old magician from way back. That
yeah.
probably he was around when Slim Whitman. I was listening to I had a Slim Whitman album playing in the studio earlier today, and the first guy that walked in today, second guy that walked in today, Koontz was here first. Jason was uncharacteristically the last one to show up. I don't know what happened today.
Funny.
But
It's a special gift he has.
HD walks in, looks up in the air and says, Slim Whitman. So it's like he's that 1 in 100,000 other people that recognizes Slim Whitman when he comes on. But,
You're welcome.
okay, so I'm going to read a scripture in its entirety. And I want you guys to tell me, is this verbatim in the scripture or is it not? It's in the Proverbs, by the way.
Okay.
There are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young woman.
So what's the question?
Is that a verbatim, or has Jackson toyed with the verbiage and tried to make something seem like it's in there that's not? Basically, Inny or Audi.
Read the first part of that again. The
first
3 and
part
the 4
there.
in there. Yeah.
Koontz is going into a analytical mode here, which he's dangerous when he does that, because he'll come out.
Watching Data on Star Trek.
It's like,
He's like going through the stuff in his head.
by the way, when they beamed him up, what was that called?
Transporting.
Tractor beam?
I couldn't. I was thinking
No, tractor beam is what you locked onto another ship.
tractor beam. You said
No, it's transporting. He said tractor beam. He was
That's
wrong.
right, yeah.
That's okay.
That's what they did.
That's how aliens get you in the ship.
tractor beam. I
Sure.
haven't heard of a tractor beam.
That's how my dad put me up in the tobacco barn. Tractor beamed me up in there.
Tractor beam, is that when you turn the headlights on your tractor?
Speaking of getting off the rails, okay. Here, there are 3 things that are too amazing for me. 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young woman. Is that in the Bible or is that not in the Bible?
That verbiage,
Yeah?
there are 3 things and then there are 4 things. That comes up several times in the Proverbs.
What would that be?
I mean, just, I don't know. It's like there are so many things that are detestable. There are 3 things that are detestable before God, no 4, you know, and it's kind of a poetic language way to. So that part sounds like Proverbs. The first 3 analogies sounds like Proverbs. The way of a man with a young woman. I'm not sure that's
think I'm trying to
something.
slip
That's
up
not
on-
something I'm sure.
Did we pull that from another book?
You would want to observe. That seems a little.
You know, on the
I'll just
preacher's-
throw this out there. The Bible is not as PG as what
You're
you
right
think it
about
is.
that.
That is a good point. You know, on the Preacher's Wives series recently, I threw the words billy goat into a scripture that I read to them. Jason's wife, Sarah, was snickering and throwing eye darts at me as soon as I said billy goat, but that one didn't fit. I don't know why I brought that up, but 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the
That
way of a
sounds-
snake on a rock,
That sounds decent.
the way of a ship on the high
Fourth
seas,
of it.
and the way of a man with a young woman.
Can I break the suspense?
Sure.
100% in there.
100%.
Unless you have changed like a minor word in
No,
there
I would
or
change the
something.
minor word. That would, that would.
100%. The way of a man with a woman is actually in there, unless you have changed from woman to young woman, and it's
just
not.
seems a little
It is 100% in there.
It does.
It's in there.
100%.
100%.
That's your saying, isn't it? 100%.
Bet.
You know that is
I've been told to
spelled-
do a new phrase now.
No. I like
1000%.
that one.
No, bet. We had a missions meeting the other day, and they said to introduce more vernacular that students use, and bet is another one.
Bet?
Bet. B-E-T. Basically means yes.
Bet.
Bet.
Okay. I'll have to remember that. I need to be a little cooler than I.
Is it in there? Bet. That means yes.
Bet.
I'll go with Inny.
Yeah, I'll go with the other 2 just because I'm tired. So that sounds good.
Unless you've changed in some sort of way that I'm
Bet.
100% in there.
It's in there. Yeah. I'm like you. I read it in that, but now, like to Jason's point, there are things in the Bible that'll kind of stop you in your tracks. Like, that's kind of real right there. Almost too real to be comfortable, but that is in there. I didn't even notice this when I was originally reading this about the things where he says there are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand. I didn't even really pick up on that when I was selecting this.
Yep.
I just wanted to get those 4 out there and see if you all would.
Yep.
Hey, it's a roaring success today on Inny or Outty. 2 rights. But you know what? There's a trend going here. There's always a dissenter among the three that are trying to answer, but they have learned to go with the other two, and it usually works out pretty good.
It keeps it lively.
In a multitude of counselors, I believe there's wisdom, right?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite verses.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back. Sing a hymn, close it out in good high church fashion.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
This international recording star had the #1 record in England for more weeks than any singer in history, even Elvis and the Beatles. And now, for the first time on American TV, we proudly offer the fabulous hits of Slim Whitman, the man voted #1 international male artist in England 4 years in a row. Here is all the magic of Slim Whitman, the international star who has sold 31 million records.
My darling. All the songs that touch people's hearts the most are in this album, and I hope you'll let them touch your heart too.
Slim Whitman, All My Best. This giant record treasury is only $7.98. Complete tape collection is only $9.98. Not sold in any store. Order yours now.
To order your collection of Slim Whitman's hits, call toll-free 1-800-257-1234. In New Jersey, call 800-232-6966. To avoid COD charges, send a check or money order, $7.98 for records or $9.98 for tape, to Slim Whitman, P.O. Box 7500, Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Inny or Outty is always exciting because of these things that are either in the Bible or out of the Bible. And so is the thought of actually getting a word in the dictionary. And the more I think about it, if you guys are on board and support me, I think shrinkle is the word. Jason actually has a phone number for Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Call them. Put it on speakerphone and give them a call.
Right now?
Oh, yeah, right now. We're going to call them
Okay.
up and ask them what we have to do to get that word in the dictionary.
See.
And then we will know in real time right here what we got to be working on. Okay.
You have reached the customer service department at Merriam-Webster. Our office hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Friday, Eastern Standard Time. If you have called during those hours, all of our lines are in use. Please leave your name and telephone number, and we will return your call. Thank you.
I would like to get a word in the dictionary. I was wanting to know if you might be able to call me back and let me know the process of doing that. My number is 270-779. I'm not going to... Anyway. I just realized this goes out online. I'm not putting all that out there.
I was sitting there, I was like,
He's going to go.
He's a braver
go
man
all
than
the way
I
with
am.
that.
Could have bleeped it. I'll tell you what, we'll call Miriam back when we're not live on the air. But that was just mainly to let you know that we are serious about this and we're going to get her done. So, just like at all church services where they're trying to get words in the dictionary all the time, and HD actually does a pretty good job of that, of coming up with some interesting words. We're going to sing a hymn like we always do. And as always, this is from the Mike the Baptist hymnal, one of the great old hymn books you'll find in a lot of churches if you look hard enough. They try to hide them for some reason. All the churches don't like the Mike the Baptist hymnal, and they'll keep them hidden. They all buy them. They've had them for years, but they don't always put them out in the pews. I don't understand that.
I think this one is in the Cowboy Church hymnal as well.
In Texas, they put it right out on the pew.
Yeah.
And they don't really care. This is actually from the 80s, but in full disclosure, this hymn was actually from the 70s. It was originally introduced in 73 by some unknown folks. And then this other gospel artist got a hold of it and kind of made it a little more popular. And we'll be doing that more popular version because more people sing that in church, I've noticed, than they do the original version. So it's from the 70s, but But I'll be looking for 8 when they pull that gate, and I hope that judge ain't blind. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo's on my mind. Amarillo by morning, up from San Antone. Everything that I got is just what I got on. I ain't got a dime, but what I got is mine. I ain't rich, but Lord, I'm free. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo's where I'll be. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo's where I'll be. That's an amen right there. See you next time. We're just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
Mike the Baptist.